Hello and welcome back. This was meant to be on video, but I am tired and I look terrible, so hi. Now, Star Trek Picard Season 3. We are halfway into the series, and so far so good. I'm going to talk about that a little bit more, but first, a word from our sponsor. This video is sponsored by Mountaineer brand, a brilliant all-natural men's product line that has been my lifesaver numerous times. Absolutely fantastic products that do their job and do exactly what they need to do. Everything from deodorants to beard oils to shaving products to everything else in between. Use code BaldBookGeek or use the link below. I hope you guys like them as much as I do. I'm going to paraphrase this and say that I actually enjoyed Season 1 and 2 of Picard despite their flaws. I like Patrick Stewart, I think he's very engaging, and I actually really enjoyed it. Out of all the new characters, I did like Rios, but they were flawed seasons. I honestly don't believe there is a good first season of Star Trek. Like, look back at Voyager, DS9, and TNG, and you'll see what I mean. The first season is always a testing ground, and I understand how that works and people finding themselves. Season 3 is a love letter to the franchise. From the ending of the first episode, that moment gave me that music, seeing the Star Trek computers and all the little hidden Easter eggs in that ending piece, to this day, sends chills down my spine. It was really well done. And at the time I'm recording this, I have watched up to episode 5, so we're halfway in. And genuinely, I'm actually shocked how good this series is. The characters are well-rounded, and it's got no trace of Kirkman's style, which is always a good thing. This feels more like Star Trek than anything currently in New Trek. Seeing the old cast return is wonderful, and kind of giving them that farewell that we never really got with the failure of Star Trek Nemesis and what would have been a trilogy of films. The little Easter eggs and references dotted throughout, and the revelation of Picard and Beverly Crusher's son is fascinating. Characterization is really good. I was actually surprised how well it worked. The characters feel very much like older versions themselves. They've moved on, and it just feels more coherent. The storytelling is coherent. The characters are far more coherent. And I think it's really, really well done. I was surprised. I thought, okay, it's going to be another flawed but fun show that gets a little bit too preachy. But instead, this one focuses more on what should Star Trek be. I have criticism, though, and I will put that one into the mix. I do have a lot of criticism that the show is dark. And I don't mean in tone, I mean in lighting and aesthetics. This show is pitch black sometimes, and I do kind of miss the bright light and the colour of the earlier Trek series, because it carries that weird, dark, moody lighting from Star Trek Discovery, which I was never a fan of. And that's fine. That's absolutely fine. It's watchable. But there are moments where I'm like, who is that? You have to do a double take because there's so much shadow and so much high contrast. That is my big, big criticism. And I do have some criticism of some of the moments feel a little ham-fisted. But you know what? The pacing is good and you can forgive those kind of clumsy moments. I'm actually shocked how good it genuinely is. I think it's interesting seeing these characters older. I think seeing where they've become from and going to, and how the characters work. The dynamic is there, and it's very obvious the cast like each other. I am enjoying Seven in this. I think Seven deserves a lot of... Voyager was a flawed series, and I do love Voyager, but it was a flawed series. But Seven was always my favourite character, and just seeing her kind of getting coming out of the Seven bubble, and I think she was one of the most enjoyable elements of Picard overall. And I will say, Season 2, despite its flaws, you cannot denounce any hate for the chemistry between Q and Picard. I mean, seriously. This feels very different to those series. It's not so... It doesn't have this kind of... It is a dark show overall, but it doesn't have that slightly depressing tone that the previous two series had. It's a darker show, but the darkness and the darker tone in terms of storytelling and character is handled really well. And just seeing those characters on screen, it's brilliant. I genuinely believe that. There are some interesting choices that they've made, and again, it's mainly stylistic issues that I have. Again, the dark camera and the dark lighting. The visual effects are really good. They're a major step up from the first two seasons, and there's obviously a bit more money being piled into this one, since Discovery is basically dead in the water. So that's not a bad thing. Characterization-wise, again, seeing those characters on screen, the genuine chemistry, and feeling like the characters have kept their... The only way I can describe it, they've kept something that made them good. They've kept that heart of those characters. Worf, for example, is always one of my favourites, up there with Crusher and so on. I'm glad we're not seeing any Will Wheaton in this season. That's always a good thing. And overall, really good. I'm giving this a good firm 8 out of 10, and that's extremely high for me. I was actually surprised. And I think with Season 3 as well, they're trying not to repeat the mistakes that Season 1 and 2 made. Geordi is a great character. Riker is obviously cool. Troy is there. And I think the way they're doing it is just... the genuine chemistry between these actors makes this show really shine, because it's very obvious they're really close. They're all much older now, but you know what? It works in so many ways. And just seeing like these characters together, I do find it slightly funny. I did have a giggle when Riker and Seven had their first scene together. I did giggle when I saw that. There was just that moment. But I do wonder, if they could create this kind of storytelling and this kind of quality in the last season of a show, why couldn't they do it in the first two? Season 1 suffered from really poor pacing, story structure was kind of all over the place, and Season 2 suffered from what I like to call pushy narrative, where the narrative is kind of... they forget there has to be characters. And I didn't think the actress that played the Bald Queen was as strong as the original. There was something really imposing about the original actress, and it's a shame she didn't reprise her role in some form or another for this one. But I'm so glad that this happened. Seeing these people on screen after so long, seeing where they've gone, where they've come from, what's happened. A genuinely spectacular show, and one that I cannot wait to see how it ends. I will be covering this when it ends, when we hit the end of the season, because I want to do a more in-depth video, but this is a so far so good midway through type thing. Just seeing these. But again, I come back to that lighting. What the hell are they thinking? Can we have some light, please? There are moments where you're like, why is everything so black? And I know it's to set the mood. I know that's how it works. But seriously, why is it so dark? Why is it so dingy? Why am I struggling to see this? And why am I having to turn my TV up on the brightness and contrast just to make out some scenes? Maybe my eyesight is terrible, but seriously, I know that's a weird nitpick, but I think, and honestly, I think this is really well done, and I can't wait to see where it goes. Genuinely excited about Star Trek for the first time in a long time, and seeing this happen has given me hope. and I can't wait to see how it goes. So tell me what you think in the comments. I'm really curious, and I will talk to you guys later.